25 till the hour here on the IMUS in the Morning program on the radio around the country and on the Fox Business Network all over the world. Please welcome to the IMUS Morning program from Arizona, Senator John McCain. Good morning, Senator McCain.
Good morning, Don. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm glad the Suns won, and I tell you, Steve Nash may be one of the best, if not the best, players that I have seen in all the years that I've been watching sports. The guy is really a fantastic athlete, and maybe for once, after a very unfortunate record against the Spurs, maybe the Suns will be able to win this time.
No, they won't. No, it's not going to happen.
Well, maybe we'll have a little bet on that, okay?
Well, no, I'm not going to bet because then they would win and I'd lose. And so we caught this terrorist here in New York. We have a phrase that we all use here in New York City, and that is if you see something, say something. And a guy down there, a veteran, by the way, selling T-shirts, he saw something and said something. So.
Yeah, that shows that citizen involvement is really a key item, but also the rapid reaction of the FBI and the police and everybody by catching this guy is it gives you a little encouragement about the improvements we've made since 9/11, and so heave a sigh of relief and don't give this guy his Miranda rights until we find out what it's all about.
Well, we don't know what they're going to charge him with either. What do you think? Do you know, or?
Well, there's probably about 350 different charges that he's probably guilty of, but attempts of terror against the United States, attempted murder, among other. I'm not sure of all the charges, but I'm sure there's a sufficient number to perhaps warrant the death penalty.
I wonder if they've already given him his Miranda rights.
Well, I think obviously that would be a serious mistake until we find out as much information we have, and there are legal ways of delaying that.
What do you think ultimately ought to happen to him?
Well, we don't know all the details.
Not a good question.
Yeah, I don't know enough details, but clearly what happens to him serves as an example to others.
It's 22 till the hour. Talking with Senator John McCain, who's running for re-election out there in Arizona, and you have to win.
We're gonna.
No. You have to win. I mean, I'm not going to take it down to our level and to disparage your very fine opponent, but I mean, you got to win. You just can't lose this.
I'm confident that we'll win. We're in a tough fight. People are very unhappy in Arizona and in the country, and there's a lot of anti-incumbency. But I'm confident that with a good, hard campaign and a strong record, but most importantly, that being able to help the people of Arizona who are in very difficult economic circumstances, help try to get this border secured, which is an absolute necessity for the safety and well-being of the people of our state, and protecting our military and our bases there, that we'll be fine. But got to work hard and earn every vote, and I like the campaign, and I enjoy traveling all over the state, as I have for many years, and it's a great experience.
Back about 5 years ago, the McCain-Kennedy immigration reform bill was designed, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was designed to establish a worker visa program that would allow employers to, I guess, temporarily hire foreign citizens to fill these various jobs that they couldn't get other people to do, or for whatever. Was not a horrible idea, and it would also allow individuals to stay here and sign up for a program by paying a $1,500 fine. Now, you didn't call it amnesty, but other people did. Have you changed your position from that?
Well, I have said during the presidential campaign, all during it, and as long ago as a year ago with John Kyle, that we had to get the border secured. The bill that I had with Ted Kennedy also focused on border security, But the thing that's different since in the last 3 years is the border violence and the drug cartels and the drug smuggling and the human smuggling has dramatically increased. And the violence across the border on the other side is beyond description. According to the LA Times, 22,000 people in Mexico have been killed in these drug cartels wars, and it was a matter of time before it spilled over onto our side of the border. I mean, it was obvious. Let me just go back. When Ronald Reagan was president, we gave amnesty to 2 million people and promised then that we would have border security. That was an outright amnesty move. We said, when I introduced the bill with Ted Kennedy, that we would secure the borders first. We didn't. And I've said all along, we have now, it is vital, it is absolutely essential that we secure our borders first and then move on to the other issues that you're talking about. I'm still for all the things you said after we secure the border.
Wonder why we can't do that.
Well, we can. We don't use enough assets. We don't spend enough money. We don't hire enough people. That's why a year ago, John Kyle and I called for sending the National Guard, at least 3,000 of them, to the Arizona border. Don, you grew up in Arizona, and you remember a time where people would come across our border and work and then go back home, and it wasn't that much of a problem. We had the Bracero program, which was a guest worker program, and all of that died. And now, over the years, we've now got a situation where the drug cartels and the human smugglers are working together. They have taken over literally parts of the border, and the violence is unspeakable. And the things that are being done, the cruelty and inhumanity to the people who are being brought across. The other day, they intercepted a U-Haul panel truck with 67 people jammed inside of it. These human smugglers take people into these drop houses, and then they hold them for ransom from their people. They beat them. They abuse them. I appreciate the concern that lots of our liberal friends who live in very secure situations have for these people who are undocumented, and I hope they would care about what happens to them in the unspeakable treatment by these human smugglers we call coyotes. And they are working with the drug smugglers. Like just last year on the Arizona border, we intercepted 1.2 million pounds of marijuana. That was just in the Tucson sector. They apprehended 241,000 illegal immigrants. You figure they catch 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. That's over 1 million people that crossed our Arizona border. They have destroyed the wildlife refuges. People who live in southern Arizona do not have a secure environment. And with UAVs, with fences, with increased personnel, with a lot of other things that need. John Kyle and I have a 10-point plan. We can get the border secure. Then we can move on to the other issues associated with immigration.
Now, this new immigration bill, the governor's saying, how is this going to stop any of that if the police can't stop somebody and ask them for their papers until they've done something, until they've broken the law?
Well, that's not a problem. When someone stops someone for speeding, as the other day, and there are 9 people jammed in the car, then it's pretty obvious you want to ask additional questions. We don't want to just stop somebody willy-nilly because of their ethnicity or any other reason. What we want to do...
Well, boy, this sure seems like an invitation to do that, though.
It may seem like an invitation to do so, but I've talked to the majority of law enforcement people in Arizona feel that they can carry out this law, which is basically federal law, and not violate anyone's rights by doing so. They have a lot of work to do, and they are not going to just seek someone out just because they happen to look like they're Hispanic. And the federal law enforcement don't either. The problem that we have is a state that's inundated with illegal immigrants and is become the major drug carder of bringing drugs up
I understand all that,
into our country. Now we've got to stop it.
I mean, what happens, though? I mean, if I'm a guy I got 9 illegals in a car, it's unlikely I'm going to be speeding. I mean, why would they?
You'd be amazed how often they do. You'd be amazed. Well, there are checkpoints also where they just look at every car that goes by.
Before this law was signed, and there's a car speeding with 9 people in it, what would the police do then? They just give them a ticket and not ask them where they were from or what?
If someone is speeding and he stops him and he sees that there's 9 people jammed into the car, of course he's going to have probable cause to.
But I mean,
ask
before
questions.
this bill was signed into law, what would they do?
That's probably the same thing, but there's other aspects of the law that obviously we want to make sure that they have full capability to enforce the law because the federal government is not carrying out its responsibilities. That's why they passed this law, because the federal government, whose responsibility it is to secure the borders, has not done that. And the people in my state do not live in a secure environment. It is the obligation of every government to secure their borders in order that their citizens may live in a secure environment. And that's not what's happening.
I'm not the first person to think of this, but why not secure the borders by hiring the illegals to secure it?
I think that was your pal Kinky Friedman that had that. Or I think Kinky's was to pay the generals.
Yes.
And then every time a person came across the border illegally, they would take some money out of the general's account. That we may be reduced to that option, but the fact is, we can secure the borders. We can bring about an elimination of this terrible. Look, the methamphetamine, the cocaine, the brutality of these people. Just 2 weeks ago, they broke a ring where people come across. You remember Nogales into Nogales, Arizona, into Tucson, into vans, into Phoenix, where they were distributing these people all over the country. Some were coming as far away as China.
I understand all that. My only question is, I just hope that we don't have people who abuse this law, and it seems like an invitation just to be criticized when we could simply secure the border and be done with it. I just don't. I don't get that.
In the meantime, between now and securing the border, which would take a while, you're going to have to.
Yeah, I heard that too.
But it is in the law 3 or 4 times. There will be no racial profiling. No one will be stopped unless there is probable cause to do so. I mean, that is.
How will we know if
clear.
there is?
Pardon me?
How will we know if there is?
Well, the same way you know if someone is, when you apprehend somebody who's committed a robbery or anyone who's committed a crime. I mean, it's probable, in the judgment of the law enforcement person. I have been assured by the sheriffs and by the people who are on the front lines that they can implement this law, which is basically federal law, and not racially profile, not discriminate against anyone, but there is also the requirement that we ensure the safe. Look, a sheriff's deputy just 3 or 4 days ago.
About 10 seconds, Senator.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, let me just say this.
Let me just say, sheriff's deputy was shot. It was 57 miles from the border, and you know what the guy was using to shot him? An AK-47.
Oh, Jesus. You got to win this thing one way or another, okay?
Thank you,
Get the wall built and win the election. 11 till the hour.